here, hopefully in the room, that can explain what I'm about to do. Who asked me on Twitter not to use slides yesterday? So, if this is interesting, thank him. If it's boring, shoot me. I was making slides yesterday for this talk, and you know how you all present, and you all have to think every time what is it you're going to talk about, and what will be interesting for this kind of crowd. And being it that this in the morning, being that this is this kind of crowd, with only professionals and people that is working. Let me get the cable and walk around you, otherwise we'll be tangoing here. So yeah, speaking in front of a professional crowd who do this all the time, and having the instruction to keep it personal, and having someone on Twitter saying, well, ditch the slides and just go for the story. I'm going to do an experiment, which basically is the story. I was about to talk with slides. I have some video and have some audio, but I'm just going to try to do it completely on the fly. So at some point there will be sound, at some point there will be video. Otherwise, I'll just do it with even images. You're all creatives, you can imagine the context of the story. But let me briefly introduce myself for these two people know me, but the rest of you don't. Boris and Rave work with me, so I imagine talking around you two, and no cardboard future talks for you. I'm a cultural entrepreneur that used to be a DJ, who became a radio presenter, who worked for museums and now works in the public domain, basically in the cultural domain. I have a background in organizing the museum night here in Amsterdam, which was in 2005 to 2009, working for basically all of the Amsterdam museums, thinking how can we reimagine these kind of institutions that have a heritage of sometimes more than 100 years, who have collections that go back to the Middle Ages. How can we imagine them to be relevant for the 21st century, for new audiences, new generations, new media, new behaviors, new desires? And that was a big stepping stone for my personal, entrepreneurial, intellectual development or maturity. And at the same time, in that same period, I was doing music, because before museums, I was always a DJ, or had always been a DJ, since early 1994, when I was 15, when I started with jungle music, who knows about jungle music here? I know your age now. So early jungle and playing music in different raves and festivals. Hey, that's Alvaro. Where's the camera? I should wave at him, but hey Alvaro, how's Shanghai? Oh, he's not responding. So playing at festivals, organizing different events, and just walking through or moving through all these developments in music. So doing that on the side of being involved in museums, I worked for a music venue in Rotterdam called Lantaarn Venster, and it's a bit like the Bimhuis here in Amsterdam, where they set up jazz nights and experimental music and sound art and all different kind of events. And for them, I traveled to London in March 2006 to meet with a few musicians for a festival we were setting up. And this is where the epitome for me happened, and something when talking to Alvaro. You can't see him, so I can just, actually I just have to show it to you. Just look at him. So he's looking like a baby to me. And so when I spoke with Alvaro and Joe a few weeks ago about this talk, and they said, well, what's something really special that happened to you, and how could you talk about that, and could you maybe abstract from that to future lessons or something you want to give away, a gift to the people when they leave here? I thought, well, there's one super weird and rare experience I had when I went to London in March 2006. It's that I ended up not meeting two guys I was supposed to meet, but I ended up at the 1-year anniversary of a dubstep night called DMZ. Who knows about DMZ here? Yes, 3 people. If I can show you maybe a little bit while I explain what that was. Oh, fuck it, it's too much work. I'll put it online later on because it's too much hassle to do it now and you only have 20 minutes, so I'll just explain it and hopefully you can imagine it. DMZ was a dubstep night, the pivotal dubstep night in London in 2005. It started in March 2005 in a church in Brixton, all the way in South London, in the most desolated part of the city. Well, it's not an abandoned church because it's still in use, but it was a rundown church, and it was a music genre that developed out of jungle and out of UK garage and out of bass culture in basically London and Bristol. And I was in London in March 2006 when the genre broke, basically, and I didn't know about it, and I was supposed to meet 2 other people, and they said, oh, you should come to this event in Brixton called DMZ, and it should be good. So I went there, and I didn't know where I was going, but I really wanted to see these musicians. So I ended up being there, and when I queued, and it was a massive queue, my battery of my phone died. So I ended up being in an area of London I'd never been to, in front of a church that was just resonating with bass frequencies, and it felt like being in Blade Runner or in Mad Max. And I didn't know who I was supposed to meet on a rave in a part of town I'd never been to without battery. So I was just on my own there. But I decided to stay there, and because the frequencies were really appealing and the building was really about to collapse because it was just super heavy sub bass. So I ended up going in there, and I never met the guys. I just ended up being amazed by what happened in there. It was just one dark church and a stack of sub bass subwoofers all the way to the ceiling, and just massive sound. And the sound was called dubstep. I heard the day after. I just Googled what happened, and that was my first experience with that music. And this DMZ thing, that event, that March event of DMZ, was filmed by the BBC, and it was recorded by Marianne Hobbs, who had a radio show for the BBC, and all of a sudden it was broadcasted worldwide online, because apparently it had been moving up to the attention of that event. So I decided to bring that to Rotterdam back then, and I became part of the community of people listening, or I dove into that community. So through discovering this thing, just going out there on a limb and going to meet these people, I became part of some kind of hidden subculture that became bigger and bigger and used the web. So when talking to Alvaro and Joe about this, so how do I, as an entrepreneur, move around and use the web? Let me try to show you in a little bit so you have an idea, because I think this is a super abstract thing. Because I have a video of the thing. Yeah. Is it going? Okay. Obviously, there should have been internet for this. Yeah, but I'm not sure if I'm online here, so we should have checked if we were online. So when I started researching this music, it was the first time for me that a music culture entirely developed online. So that my point of my experience was that this was the first time, having gone through all these different phases of music, where basically you hung out in record shops and you listened to radio and you shared it on cassette with each other, and it would formalize in some way. This was the first time for me that a music culture entirely used the web and abandoned all the formal institutions that I had known previously. So no record labels, no record shops, no radio stations, no formal distribution. So it was all using MySpace. It all used forums online. It used peer-to-peer networking. It did all these things that had happened in the early 21st century. So from Napster and SoulSeek and early social networking, all these things all of a sudden came together in like a perfect storm of social web culture. And the music catalyzed this experience for me of what it is to live in the web and with the web. And all of a sudden I lived in London and I lived in Los Angeles and I lived in Tokyo at the same time because I was in touch with all these musicians I wanted to bring to the Netherlands via iChat or via MySpace. And this notion of experiencing a cultural change or rupture through the web was such an important moment in how do you live with technology and how do you distribute and accelerate culture. So this, talking to you basically about, so what happened with what the things you do, this was to reverse engineer my personal attachment to the social web and also using Foursquare and using location services and being part of communities. This was like the first time I got it. I didn't get it at the time, but I used it. And now looking back at it and looking at from what I'm doing now and trying to struggle that here in front of you about, so what is it exactly that you could do with these kind of technologies and how you communicate with each other, how you engage with each other, how you involve other people and how you distribute these things and how you form this kind of profession or office.
We're gonna try to get this going. I'm having some issues here. It's not browser stuff. All this technology.
Yeah, but we didn't prepare that, so it's my mistake.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we can play it later on. We should have had poured vodka in the coffee. Maybe something for creative mornings in Helsinki. So looking back from where we are now, or where I am now in my personal career, is that 2006 moment of just going out to this place I didn't know of, and this is pre-Facebook, pre-Twitter, pre-iPhone, so it probably had a really bad Nokia that just died at that point. So this is pre-immediate web, being connected in real time all of the time, so pre-ubiquity. All these things didn't exist then, but they emerged out of my musical experience with this sound. So in the years that followed, MySpace was abandoned, SoundCloud appeared, and FM didn't become important. We just did web radio, and we're doing now red light radio, which is like pirate radio in the red light district. People check into events, are sharing through, even sharing the tracks they played as DJs through Serato, through Twitter, so making things legible, sharing them in real time with different audience, and they are retweeting that and distributing that. So these kind of new developments in music that previously just developed slowly under the radar were distributed by people who were in the know, or DJs or journalists who were following these things and putting their time and effort into it. All of a sudden, through Last.fm, through Discogs.com, through all these different media, became legible, visible, shareable, amendable. People could wiki them. All these things became available immediately to everybody. And this has accelerated my experience of previously music, but now in anything, enormously, up to the moment that all these things are developing in real time for everybody. And so if you follow music now, if you follow these kind of movements like dubstep and later on UK funky or grime, or imagine any kind of new genre that appears, it seems like they just evolve in real time by the day or by the week or by the season. And where you previously had to build up a long career as a musician or as an aspiring underground musician, then it took took all these different institutions to make that career and to become known and to get your audience. Now it's just one track on SoundCloud. People like it, share, distribute it, and all of a sudden within a week you play at Lowlands Festival and you're getting 2,000 euros for a gig. And this kind of essence of speed and this sharing and this lost it. You can make it bigger. This was the second time I was there, just to give you the vibe, how dark it is and how it sounds.
No fuck, did you mistakes? Sergeant Punks. Back to the metalheads.
That's the camera. The Sony, although the Sony is pretty good for sub, but we'll get sub now because it hasn't dropped yet. And that whole, this is another talk, the cultural phenomenon of playing music for the first time in front of a crowd and then pulling it and playing it again because it's nice, you're going to play it twice. This kind of really interesting sound system culture there in London. But this was the vibe. I just imagine just going to clubs in Amsterdam and all of a sudden being here. It's like demonizing, and it was hellish and it was amazing, and it's being immersed in sub bass, like feeling sound everywhere, and then like just all of a sudden this would become black, and it would feel like this building, but it was just sound everywhere and perfect sound, and not just noise. And then we have these people, the apostles almost, like this, the MCs just going crazy about this. So from this kind of immediate experience of wow, this is new, this is good, and this is amazing, and I would like to share this to all of a sudden everybody has this experience and everybody can do this in real time, because this is pre-Twitter, pre-Instagram, so nobody was sharing this in real time. This was just me coming out of that rave and then telling my friends, fuck, I had this experience there. Luckily I videoed it, and I can share that, I can put it on YouTube, but that's as fast as it goes, and then it takes a long time and perseverance, and then explaining to people why would you like to do that, and then it takes off, and now people could just stream this live, like they do in the Boiler Room. There are now events that are only for the internet, where you don't go to a club, you just watch it online in the Boiler Room, because that's the idea. You broadcast it in real time. The only thing you need to know and need to communicate is that there's a group of musicians that are really good. We'll get a room somewhere. It doesn't need to be big, because we're only going to stream it. And then thousands and thousands and thousands. I think they have more than 100,000 Facebook followers. Just check out unknown artists via whatever medium they use. And that for me was, or has been, amazing. How first with music and now with in the art world or with architecture or any cultural medium, how these ubiquitous, immediate social media or social technologies are changing the way people discover culture and involve within it, engage with that, share it with others, and distribute that. And by doing all these things, accelerate it, and then forming a new culture. That for me, thinking about this, so what is it that I do? This is what I do, these things. And so I go to a club night without knowing where I go. And then I'm amazed by it, and then I want to re-experience that, and I want to bring that to wherever I do that. So first it was with music, now it's with with basically anything, any cultural experience in a room with people that I encounter, that I can recreate. I always think like this, with these media and these kind of experiences I had and the things I learned about web culture or the social web experience, bringing that to a museum or bringing that to an architecture institute or bringing that to even to reimagine education. So maybe that is something that I would like to ask all of you here. So if you have my personal experience of how Web 2.3 developed and then seeing all these different appearances in at least from my practice, being in the community, being in the web, being in almost like a tapestry of developments on a smaller level, how will that affect how we change or reevaluate our institutions? So we just had our elections here, which feel like a really outdated system, like having one vote, having go to, even you have to do a pencil, you have to use a pencil. So having to go to a voting booth, and notwithstanding all the technological problems that are there, but just reimagining the process of voting and education and well, imagine anything that how you build a society and the economy, or how we live in Europe with borders or without borders. How do these experiences of being in this aspatial environment of being at the same time with your friends abroad or being with your friends in another city, being in real time with them on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook and on SoundCloud, and being able to amend things and change things and add things and appropriate things. How do these things change how we build a city or build a society, or change how you teach your children, or how you grow a company? So probably that is my question in the end for you. And at some point, there's a point in my story, and I hope that was clear enough for you. So thank you very much for your attention. And